The second South Carolina Part-Timers Challenge race and the 5th overall race on the NOVAR calendar heads to Darlington. The last time the NOVAR Cup Series took the track, Blake Battagliana pretty much routed the field at Edmonton, cruising to an easy 50-second victory over Branndon Green. For this race, the qualifying races were done differently as no cars were locked in, and the first 5 cars in the South Carolina Part-Timers Challenge and the top 35 in owners points were put into the first qualifying race, while the bottom 35 in owners points and the bottom 5 in the South Carolina Part-Timers Challenge were put in the second race. The first duel, as a result, would create a lot of big names that failed to qualify. 3 big names that failed to qualify was Branndon Green, the points leader going into this weekend, Casey Lester, and Blake Battagliana, who won last week's race. And there was controversy in how Casey Lester didn't get qualified, as J.R. Norrie pulled 2 boneheaded moves, first completely wrecking Jason Duke, and then about a few more feet down the track in turn 3. Then she came up and darted into the 9 of Jamie Scott into Shane Little and Casey Lester, effectively taking Casey Lester out of the race. So as a result, NOVAR is currently investigating the wreck and will have penalties expected at the end after the conclusion of this weekend. But in the qualifying race, Shane Harden pretty much dominated the qualifying race in fashion for the first one, and the second qualifying race saw Cameron Brooks take the victory on that one. And now we're going to head to Kendall Johnson for the starting grid of the race and for the race recap. Thanks, Jerry. And now, before we get to the starting grid, now let's take a look at the standings for the South Carolina Part-Timers Challenge. Going into this weekend, the point standings for the South Carolina Part-Timers Challenge stands 10 for if you are the highest finishing South Carolina Part-Timers driver, and 1 for the lowest finishing one. If you qualify for the race, you get 2 bonus points. If you get a top 10, you get add an additional point, so you get 3 points if you finish in the top 10. You get 4 points if you finish in the top 5. That's 2 additional bonus points along with the 2 bonus points you get for qualifying. And if you win the race, you get 3 bonus points along with the 2 you get for qualifying. So the maximum amount of points you can get is 15. And the point standing stands this. Garrett Bluntford is the points leader of the standings. He has 10 points. Ethan Littinger has 9, second in points. Greg Woodard in third with 8 points. Keith Jesse in fourth in standings. 5th is John Casnier. 6th is Pike Patton. 7th is Jordan Donovan. 8th is Tobias Newbridge. 9th is Johnny Gardner. And rounding out the South Carolina Part-Timers Challenge drivers is Mike Harper. And out of the entire field, the 08 of Bluntford and the 96 of Tobias Newbridge were the only 2 cars that were able to qualify for the race, so they will earn 2 additional points as they will for the race. And now we'll get you to the starting grid for today's race. Starting in 42nd is the 08 of Garrett Bluntford, making his first for NOVAR Verizon Cup Series. Starting 41st is Tobias Newbridge, who's also in that same category. Starting 40th is number 72 Amp Energy Toyota of Logan Chin. And starting 39th is Brian Wilson in the number 90 Chevrolet for Howell Wilson Racing. Starting 38th is Evan Brooks, who was, I believe, making his first start of the year in the number 95 car. And then Matt Camlin, who is making his first start of the year in the number 28. Starting 36th is Thomas Lewis, And starting 35th is Gordon Biller, who is making his first NOVAR Verizon Cup Series start of the year. Chris Devon is starting 34th in his first start of the year. And then second place man Luke Warren sits 33rd in points in the standings. 32nd is Austin Warwick in the number 3 CarQuest Toyota, while 31st is Casey Huto in the 19. Starting 30th is Walter Green in the 39, and then starting in 29th is Shane Clark III in the Lumber Liquidators number 98. Starting 28th is Sean McDowell in car number 10, who missed, I believe, last week's race, and then Todd Piper in the 26 starts 27th. Shane Little replaces Jamie Scott, who will start in the 26th spot. Then Jason Calasso, who made his first start and had a pretty good run at Edmonton before crashing out. Starting 24th is Kevin Brooks in the 33. He's not had a good season. A driver having a good season is Mark McGill in the 20. Starting 22nd is Ike Jace Jr. in 09 Red Bull Toyota. And then starting 21st is Keith Hales in the number 27 Copart Ford Fusion. Starting 20th is Scott Harper, who's making his first start since Atlantic City, while Max Rapon, who starts 19th, is making his first start since Dentsville. Starting 18th is the number 88 of Alan Kimmel, the Budweiser Chevrolet. And then Brian Kittleson, the 2010 champion, starts 17th. Starting 16th is Cody Wyke in the number 22 Lowe's Dodge for Silver Green Racing. And then starting 15th is Shane Harden in the number 59 Ford. Starting 14th is the 11 of James Wilson Jr. in the Dollar General Toyota. And then Ronald Portland is starting 13th in the number 31 Pizza Hut Dodge. Starting 12th is Jake Kirlin, who's had 2 good runs in the past 2 races. And then 11th is Shane Howard in the 03. And now we're going to get to your top 10 starters. Starting 10th is Tony Wider in the number 35 KFC Dodge. And then starting 9th is Eddie Johns, the 2007 champion. Starting 8th is Chadler Blake in the number 15, the 2012 champion and 4-time champion. And starting 7th is Damon Scott in the 18. Starting 6th is Kyra Uthin in the 57 car. Starting in 5th is the highest rookie in the field, CJ Gordon in car 48. Starting 4th is Shane Nargan in the number 32 Discount Tires Dodge. And then starting 3rd is Casey Littinger in car number 5 for the DM Racing organization. Starting 2nd is the number 58 of Scott Johnson. And making up for the front row and winning the Aflac Pole Award is car number 8 of Walter Uthin. And now the field's going to take the green flag. Walter Uthin is leading the race. Scott Johnson is in 2nd spot. Casey Littinger looks like the inside. Looks like Walter Uthin gets a really good start as he already is away from the 58 of Scott Johnson. Casey Littinger is right there. Littinger is also going to get by the 58 of Scott Johnson. Looks like Littinger is able. So looks like the first 2 cars on the inside. CJ Gordon's will also be able to get away. And here we go. We already got some cars on the wall. Scott Johnson, Shane Nargan, Kyra Uthin. More on the wall. That's going to stack up everybody. But meanwhile, Casey Littinger is already going to go by the 8 and going to take the lead away on the first lap here. As we have already had an incident already up in the front stretch. Looks like Jake Kirlin and Alan Kimmel tangle, and that results in Jason Colasso sliding down the front stretch. This somehow does not bring out a yellow flag, which I'm not sure why, as Colasso drives away. But Walter Uthin a little bit later would retake the lead away from Littinger as Littinger gets into the wall. Damon Scott gets 2nd. CJ Gordon gets 3rd. As looks like Uthin already has a decent size lead. And then a little bit later on, Scott Johnson has a problem with the, I think the motor. He has to pull into the pits. He would fall a couple laps down. We would have another incident. Gordon Billard, Brian Kittleson, and Austin Warwick would all pinch. The 3 would go spinning down the backstretch, and even though he spun in front of traffic, this did not bring out a yellow flag, and then he gets rear-ended by the 58 of Scott Johnson, and all this did not even bring out a yellow flag, which I'm not sure what the refs are officially even thinking about it. But then Brian Kittleson would be involved in another wreck. He would get hit from behind from the 90 and then get Tobias Newbridge in the 96 and the 08 of Garrett Bluntford, as Newbridge would be able to keep on going. However, the other 3 would struggle to get back going, and the 08 would, I believe, fall a lap down. But we have our first caution of the day happen on lap 8. Mark Mongillo runs into the back of the 27 of Keith Hales and spins across. Almost gets taken out by a couple other drivers. As looks like the 20, he will be able to keep on going. He only had minor damage from that wreck. And then on the restart, Cameron Brooks in the 33 is leading. Cody White is in 2nd. Shane Nargan is in 3rd with CJ Gordon in 4th spot. As Bluntford and Johnson are the only 2 cars a lap down at this point. As 58 has mechanical issues, and Bluntford fell a lap down prior to the caution coming out. As looks like Brooks did not pit on the caution while everybody else did, and Brooks going to be in the wall. Cody White is also in the wall as well. And as a result, this is going to put Shane Nargan in the lead and CJ Gordon in 2nd. Chadler Blake's going to get 3rd there. As just like the last restart, this would stack up the field, as the 48 would be able to get away from the field. As the 32 of Nargan's going to get around the lap car of Scott Johnson, and CJ Gordon's going to do likewise. As Chadler Blake, the 3rd place car, is already stuck behind the 2 lap cars of Johnson and Bluntford. But Nargan has about maybe a quarter of a second lead over the 48, as they're going to head off of turn 4. Johnson, Blake still held back, but however, he would be able to get by those lap cars, get by CJ Gordon, and we would have an interesting race for the lead, as Shane Nargan and Chadler Blake would be battling it out for the lead, as Blake would be able to get by, and Blake would have one of the strongest cars of the entire race in at number 15, as Blake, he's going to run it to the outside. Nargan, I believe, hit the wall off before, and that's what kind of slowed his momentum down. As there you see Blake. Blake is going to run it towards the low, run it a little bit low. Nargan's going to run it a little bit low also, but runs it slightly lower than Blake, as they come off of turn 4. Blake's going to run up on the lap car of Walter Green, and the 32 of Shane Nargan is just going to be trailing right behind him. Blake already has a win so far, and he was one of the favorites to probably win this race as well, as he has been so strong at this track, and he finished 2nd in his qualifying race. He only was beaten by Shane Harden. And there you see Shane Nargan. Nargan was also quite a fast car, and he was, I believe, throughout the practice sessions, and time trialed in 4th. But then we would have our next caution come out on lap number 32. Austin Warwick runs into the wall, and Walter Green gets spun and spins himself in front of traffic. As there we go, we got some car, I think Gordon Billiter was collected. And then he comes back down the track. Keith Hales gets collected, and then he gets rear-ended by Chris Devon in the 06. As we'll have to take a closer angle. It looks like Walter Green just runs right into the back of the 3. He spins himself around and backs himself in the wall. Gordon Billiter is collected. Then he spins down the track. He would get it stalled up, but then Shane Howard hit him, which gets Keith Hales, and then gets the 06 of Chris Devon. As I believe everybody would continue on going. We would then have a restart on lap number 36. The 15 of Chadwick Blake was the leader on the restart. Casey Littinger and James Wilson Jr. are some of the last cars on the lead lap. Eddie Johnson would be in 2nd spot. 3rd place would see CJ Gordon. 4th, Shane Nargan. 5th, actually 4th, Shane Clark to 3rd. 5th would be Shane Nargan. As they would head off a turn 2. As this, for some reason, everybody would start packing in, trying to find a lane here. As there you see Blake in the wall, and pretty much everybody else in the top 10. But we have a caution lap 37. Looks like Shane Little gets into Shane Clark to 3rd, who then, when Shane Clark tries to get out, Luke Warren just drills right in the back end of the 98. I'm not sure what that was all about. Let's take a look from Luke Warren's perspective. He always gets into Cody White, gets to Jake Kierland, and then gets into Shane Clark to 3rd, which I think he was trying to avoid the wreck, but that was still a boneheaded move just to come back up the track and merge right into him. But here's the critical part of the race. Chadwick Blake comes down and wrecks himself. The leader of the race, Eddie Johnson, gets collected. Shane Harden, Damon Scott Johnson. So some of the leaders were collected in their respective accidents, but here's where it gets worse. Tobias Newbridge just runs right into the back of the 15 of Blake. So Blake already gets a ton of damage while leading the race. Kyle Lasso's turned upside down. And here is another angle of it, as looks like the 96 had nowhere to go and just runs right into the back of the 15. As actually the 96 is going to be there. He just runs right into the back of the 15. The 03 of Howard's collected, and then they all just pile up from there. As I think Walter Green got into the 96. And here's it from Newbridge's perspective. Gets hit by the 03 and then gets the 08, the 8 of Youth, and then Jason Calasso for the 2nd straight race gets his car turned over. Luke Warren's there as well, and Calasso almost gets the car turned back over, but somehow that car is stuck on his roof. Oh, Calasso would get it back going. But here's a weird incident. Scott Johnson and Matt Cameron would get together, and this would happen. The race was actually supposed to be restarted that time by, however, it was called back because of this. So the restart happened on lap number 42, as Evan Brooks was the race leader. Ike Chase Jr. sits 2nd, and I believe Chris Devon, surprisingly, is in 3rd spot. Alan Kimmel is in 4th, and I can't really tell that car. I think that was Shane Harden that was in 5th. Let's see about close. And I think, yes, it was Shane Harden, as Evan Brooks looks like he's going to bounce it off the wall. Ike Chase Jr. is going to do likewise. And pretty much the top contenders are going to be in the wall. And this as a result, this is going to hand the lead to Mark Mongillo in the 20. And then here's a surprise. Driver of the 06 to Chris Devon. Devon is making his first start of the year in the 06 for the Gressler Motorsports Company, as this team, they have been running mainly in the Gatorade Series, and notable for Ethan Zarin's championship-winning effort in 2009, as you see Devon gets into the wall. Devon was basically a part of that team, but however, due to the fact that he was being promoted to the Cup Series, and there goes Shane Howard in the 03. The 03 gets turned around in front of the backstretch, as we were talking about Howard, but let's take a look at that. Howard gets turned around, as there you see he backs it into the wall, spins it around, and somehow this does not bring a caution, so I'm not sure why the officials are not doing anything about it. Ronald Portland, Tyree Ethan get involved in their own wreck, and Chadwick Blake gets collected. Let's take a look from Portland's perspective. Portland hits the back of the 6, comes back down, gets Brian Kittleson, Chadwick Blake, Jason Calasso, and Scott Johnson almost gets a piece of that, but however, backs out. But meanwhile, back up front, Mark Mongillo and Shane Nargan are right now going to be racing for the lead, although Mongillo and Nargan, as there you see Cameron Brooks go by. Shane Harden's running in 3rd spot, so it's basically a 1-2-3 battle for the lead, although Mongillo has a slight cushion over the 32. There you see Mongillo right there. He's racing the lap car of Damon Scott, who is the teammate of Shane Nargan, and I believe lap cars have been giving leaders problems, and it will actually be throughout the race. Mongillo will get to the inside and actually try to get by the 18. However, he won't, as the 18 will be able to get there. There you see Scott Johnson right there, but that's going to be our cause for a caution lap 59. Casey Littinger turns the 58 around. As Johnson comes back up the track, he gets hit by the 11 of James Wilson Jr. Almost starts car, gets hit by Austin Warwick, and then more contact between Howard, Eddie Johns, and Shane Little in the 9. So big contact by each of those drivers. We're gonna have to take another look at that. Looks like Littinger think he just dumped him. Like, I couldn't really exactly tell from there. And then James Wilson Jr. hits the 58 hard, and then gets hit. Johnson in the like around the area, the engine bay, and the 03 would not be able to continue on, as I believe so. Shane Nargan leads on the restart with Shane Clark third and second. Third place is Keith Hales, as Clark has recovered from that crash that Luke Warren just boneheadedly just run right into the back of the 98 car. As Keith Hales, and it looks like the top 3 did get away from everybody, as they were being held up by, I believe, the lap car Austin Warwick. We have a caution come out on lap 64 due to all that madness, and here's what happened. Looks like Shane Harden and Mark Gill and Max Rapon get together, and then another wreck, Logan Chin and I believe Casey Littinger got together. There you see James got Shane Little get together. Casey Littinger in the 5 gets turned around and then comes back down the track. It's Shane Little, Thomas Lawyers, Jason Kailasso, Eddie Johns, Ronald Portland are also collected in that. The 32, Shane Nargan, is right now. The top 3 remain virtually unchanged, although actually changed the position. The only difference between the last race and this one is that they had a couple of they had company with them as they pulled away from the rest of the field, as they had company of Damon Scott, Nargan's teammate, Casey Hutto, and the 33 Cameron Brooks, along with Clark and Keith Hales, with Shane Nargan leading the way. As we would have another caution lap 69. Looks like apparently somebody dumped Kyra Youthen as the 57 slides down the backstretch, and this would end up setting up a chain reaction crash. Scott Harper gets into Shane Harden, who then sends the 6 slide around, comes back down, gets hit by the 88, Thomas Lawyers, and I believe that was Alan Kimmel was also collected. On the restart, Keith Hales was able to get by Nargan prior to the caution flag. I believe Nargan hit the wall off of turn 4, as that's what may have resulted in the lead swap. As there you see, here's a good view of the entire track, as Nargan and Hales are. Looks like Hales has gotten a decent sized gap over the 32. As looks like Hales hit the wall. Nargan's going to retake the lead. However, for his luckiness, the caution did come out. Lap 74 looks like Casey Hutto. Looks like a couple of wrecks start. I think it was Brian Wilson and Shane Little, Alan Kimmel, Matt Camlin, Scott Harper, Jason Kailasso, and Casey Hutto all get involved in this wreck. And then we had a near big wreck, as Luke Warren tries to avoid the 91 Gordon Billard, gets into Cody White and almost spins the car out. As on the restart, the 27 of Keith Hales leads on that restart. Shane Clark third, second, Walter Youth in third, and Evan Brooks in fourth. As the 27 is able to get away from the 26 of Todd Piper, who is a lap down. As Clark will be able to, I think, just line up right behind the 26. It looks like Keith Hales almost runs the turn wide, but luckily enough to save the car. As looks like Piper's gonna get under the 27. Piper almost runs it. Hale almost runs it into the wall, and now he runs it into the wall. So as a result, this is gonna hand the lead basically to Shane Clark III. Shane Clark III has not won a NOVAR Verizon Cup Series race up to this point, although I believe that's because he has encountered some bad luck over the course of the season. I think Clark won the 2011 championship, but hasn't really done anything since. Ryan Kittleson would pinch up and get into Thomas Lawyers. Coming our next caution happened on lap 81. Thomas Lawyers would get hit from behind, and that would start a wreck between Jamie Scott, Shane Little, Scott Harper, and I believe Cameron Brooks were also collected. Shane Harden was the last car on the lead lap, so as a result, Gordon Billard is the race leader, with Keith Hales in second, Shane Clark in third, and the 95 and Brooks in fourth. Hales is going to immediately get by the 91 for the race lead, as now Billard will have company from Shane Clark third for the race lead. As they see Hales is right now still in the race lead, as the 59 Harden would get into the wall, as I think Hales would be able to get to a decent sized lead, and looks like nothing's going to be able to change there, although Clark gets very close to him. And then here's Keith Hales in car 27. Hales at one point in the season was leading the points, I believe it was after the Atlantic City race. His success is actually began in 2012, where he posted a 5th place finish in the points that year. Last year he posted a 6th place points in the standings, and right now he can very well get to contention to do so. Caution would happen to lap 87. Casey Hutto spins and then gets, and I think he tries back up and gets hit hard by the 53 of Brian Kittleson. So the 53 hits the 19 hard, and then we have a restart on lap 91. Evan Brooks would be the race leader, as I believe the purple car of Ike G's Jr. is race leader. Keith Hales is in 3rd, Shane Clark in 3rd is in 4th, and Todd Piper apparently has gotten back on the lead lap. He's in 5th spot. Looks like the 27 of Hales is immediately going to challenge the, I know he's actually going to, I believe, going to pit, as Evan Brooks is the race leader. Jake Kierland and Logan Chen, I believe, are lot cars, as Damon Scott is right there. Brooks has not had a good season, so and a win here today would help him in the season, definitely. Next caution lap on lap 93, Casey Littinger, Gordon Billard, and we get together, as this would set off a wreck, as this got a couple of cars. Looks like Evan Brooks is the race leader with Brian Wilson in 2nd, Shane Nargan in 3rd, as I think Nargan, looks like Chin and TJ Gordon block up the track, so this will actually prevent the leaders from being able to have a chance to get onto the inside. As there you see, I think Keith Hales gets under everybody, and Evan Brooks gets into the wall, and that's going to be able to have Keith Hales get by for the race lead, as I think, no, that's going to give Shane Clark with a bold move. Right under, went by everybody, and as a result, that's going to give the 98. That's going to get the 98, and Brooks is in the wall even more. And actually, as a result, that was actually Shane Norgan in the race lead, my bad, for all that. It'd be a tough break for Casey Hutto, as Hutto would somehow have an engine failure and would barely make it back to the pits, and that's the result of the caution. Hutto at the time was running in the 6th spot when the failure happened and will not finish in the top 10. Shane Nargan leads on the restart, which happened on lap 120. As Ike G's Jr. is in 2nd, Todd Piper 3rd, Brian Wilson 4th, Evan Brooks in 5th. Kyrie Euthan apparently gets a better restart than the 32 and is able to get ahead. Max Rapon is right now trying to challenge, trying to fight his way back onto the lead lap. As looks like Nargan slightly touches the wall, and then he's going to get into it. However, there you see everybody, all the other leaders are able to have their own problems. And then we would have a crash. Chandler Blake would spin across the track, get turned by Jake Kierland. However, this would set up our next caution, which happened in lap 122. The 6 of Scott Harper gets into the back of Thomas Lawyers. He spins, gets Casey Hutto, gets Casey Littinger, Tobias Newbridge, and Shane Littlewar all collected. A restart would happen in lap 126 with Shane Nargan at the helm of the lead. Brian Wilson in 2nd, and I believe that's the 09 Ike G's Jr. in 3rd. Nargan gets a really good restart, gets away from not only Shane Harden, but it also gets away from Brian Wilson. I don't think Wilson even got a good restart anyway. So, looks like the 59 of Harden is going to try to race him back to the lead. Cody White and Sean McDowell, are going to be there. Norton gets into the wall, and he's going to lose the race lead to the 95 Evan Brooks, and Todd Piper's going to get by Nargan for 2nd spot. But Brooks almost wrecks the car by trying to get back in line with the 57. That's now going to be a 3-man race for the race lead on lap number 127. However, the more interesting battle would happen for 2nd spot, as Shane Nargan and the 26 of Todd Piper would be the ones battling it out, as Evan Brooks has pulled away from these two, as Nargan and Piper. Nargan has had a good season so far, but the only reason he is down in points is because of bad luck. He led the most laps. He led the 2nd high most laps at Dentsville, but however was involved in a crash, while was involved in actually an engine failure. Nargan led the most laps at Atlantic City, but crashed out. Nargan had a strong car at Chicagoland, but the handling went away, and then he crashed out very early at Edmonton. But now this is a race where he can make a big chance at possibly trying to win this race. But now, first, he's got to run down the 95. First off, he's got to defend the 26 of Todd Piper. Piper's had a strong car. And then Cody White would end up being a mix and end up being a factor in this, as White was running, I believe, in the 12th spot. As they've seen Piper, looks like the 32 of Nargan gets held up by the 28 of Matt Hamlin. This would increase the lead of Evan Brooks for a little bit. And the only way for them to get lucky to ensure them that Evan Brooks doesn't win is if Evan Brooks has a problem, which for both the 32 of Shane Nargan and the 26 of Todd Piper, their wish of Evan Brooks having problems, that wish will be coming true, as in the later stages of the race, the handling on the 95 gives way as he scrubs the wall there, and as a result of this would bring the 26 of Todd Piper really close to the 95. And now we have a race for the lead here as the 26 of Todd Piper. Piper has always been trying to get that run on the inside in turn 2, but he hasn't been able to capitalize. The 95, Evan Brooks is running the middle, while the 26 of Todd Piper is running a little bit lower than the 95. And now as a result, looks like there's the 6 of Scott Harper very slow on the track, as I believe he probably bounced off the wall. And as Evan Brooks, he gets a slight advantage because of the 55, and Todd Piper's not able to get that run off the corner, the run he wanted, as the car on the inside, Evan Brooks, that would help him in turn 2, but it would backfire in turn 3 and 4, and as a result, this would be able to get Todd Piper to the lead. And Cody White is able to get by, however, Brooks is able to hang on for second, as eventually Shane Nargan would be able to get by the 95. There's Nargan right there. He's already going to actually be able to get it. Nargan would actually be able to get a shot to get by the 95, and we'll believe Nargan couldn't really do that there. Brooks runs the corner wide again, and as a result, that's going to bring Shane Nargan right by, and Nargan is now up to second, but Todd Piper will now have to deal with the challenge with Cody White, Nargan's teammate. However, Todd Piper is able to help him, is able to negotiate that problem easily, as he lets the 22 just go by. And then Shane Nargan, he has about a couple laps left. He has to run down the 26, and just like what happened with Evan Brooks, the lap car could be a factor. The 32 gets into the wall, and this pretty much, I believe, kills the momentum off the 32, and the handling, I believe, is starting to get away from the 32. And to make matters worse, he would get held up a little bit by Austin Warwick right there, as Piper would be able to build up a huge lead, as they're going to be heading with a couple laps left. He has the 22 of Cody White to deal with as a lap car, but Piper has a big enough lead. Piper has not won since 2007, and now it would be great for him to win, but he's a couple laps away from doing that. But the only problem was with Luke Warren in the 14. There was a caution lap 148, as Warren spins the car backwards, and he would be able to, Warren will try to turn her back around, but gets hit by the 76 of 77 of Max Rapon. And as a result of this, the race would end with the regulated distance would get to would finish under caution, and this race will be going into overtime. Now here are, if people are new to the overtime system, here's the basis for it. 4 laps will be added to the total race total, as since this is a 1.3 mile track, it'll be a 4-lap overtime period. Any lap cars will not continue the race, so basically meaning that out of 32 cars that made it to the finish in regulation, only 12 will be racing in overtime. And damage repairs will be allowed to the cars that are still on the lead lap, as the 2 most notable cars are the 8 of Walter Euthen and the 98 of Shane Clark III. Also, other notable rules: if the caution does come out in overtime period, the distance will be completed, and we'll do it again until we get at least a green flag finish. And now we'll get to our running order. And here it is. Todd Piper is your leader at the end of regulation. Shane Nargan finishes second. Evan Brooks third. C.J. Gordon 4th, St. Clark III 5th, Walter Euthen 6th, Damon Scott 7th, Ronald Portland 8th, Ike Chase Jr. 9th, 10th is Casey Littinger, 11th is Brian Wilson, and then Cody White rounds out the cars that will be competing in overtime. All these cars are on the lead lap, and Max Rapon would have been in the race, however, he dropped out of the race. And now here we go. Todd Piper leads. Shane Nargan. Nargan's on his outside. Piper Well, looks like both of them get identical starts, but Piper will have the line going in turn 1 and 2. Norgan is right now holding on the outside line. Norgan's in the wall, and that's going to stack up the field, and the 95 and the 95, 98, and 18 all get away. So it looks like the first 4 cars on the inside line were able to get away. Evan Brooks and Todd Piper will battle for the lead. Shane Clark III, they got the rear end prepared off on that 98, and the 18 of Damon Scott has come back from 2 laps down, and he will now have a shot to try to win this race. Piper leads the field in turn 1. It's 3 laps to go. Piper probably got loose there, and as a result, that's going to give Evan Brooks the edge on the inside, as now they head into turn number 3. As Brooks has the line, and Piper's in the wall. So Piper, the race leader, is in the wall. As looks like Piper's going to lose a ton of ground, and Evan Brooks is going to retake the lead, as Shane Clark III is in second. Damon Scott is in third. As 2 laps to go. There's Shane Norgan. Norgan has inherited 4th spot as well, as Brooks almost runs into the wall, as Shane Clark III is running towards the middle, and Damon Scott was looking to get under the 98 and possibly pass him. And now into turn number 3 and 4. It looks like both cars are running in the middle. Both of them. Clark almost loses it a little bit right there, but now they'll be heading to the white flag this time by. Evan Brooks leads on the final lap. He has 1 career win prior to that, and that was at Edmonton in 2012. Shane Clark III has never won a Verizon Cup Series race, and so has Damon Scott. Out of turn 2, the 95 almost hits the wall there, but turn 3 and 4, this will decide the race here. Brooks runs it towards the middle. Clark runs it towards the middle, and the 95 is in the wall. And that's going to give basically the lead and the win to Shane Clark III. Career win number 1 for car number 98. Damon Scott gets second, and Shane Norgan gets third. So Shane Clark III wins his first career NOVAR Verizon Cup Series race here at Darlington. Damon Scott finishes second. Shane Norgan, who led the most laps, finishes third. He got by Evan Brooks, just at the stripe. Evan Brooks falls all the way back to 4th due to his encounter with the wall on the final turn of the race. CJ Gordon finishes 5th in the race. Dyke Chase Jr. Finishes in the 6th spot. 7th spot, Ronald Portland. 8th is Walter Euthan, the pole sitter. Cody White finishes 9th. So as a result of that, all 3 of the Silver Green racing cars that were in the race finish in the top 10, with 2 of them in the top 3. And then Brian Wilson will round out the top 10, finishing in 10th. And now we head to the point standings. Todd Piper leads the points by 7 over Chadwick Blake. The points lead would have been bigger had the race ended in green flag conditions or in the regulation, but Piper can still handle having the points lead by over 7 over Chadwick Blake. His teammate Keith Hales is in third in points with 9 points back. Luke Warren in the number 14. He loses a couple of spots as a result of his points issues. Mark Mungillo gains 7 spots to the 5th position. Cody White gains 8 spots to the 6th position, and CJ Gordon gains 7 spots actually gains 9 spots to 7th spot, there. And then rounding out the first 8 is Branndon Green, who failed to qualify in this race. He goes from the points lead to 8th and only is back by 23s. And that's still a deficit to overcome, but it's not easy as it is for maybe a 9-point deficit. And now for 9 through 15, Jake Kierland gains 2 spots. He gets from 11th to 9th in the points in the number 76. And then Shane Clark III was the big winner. He gains 12 spots and jumps all the way up to 10th in the points after his victory at Darlington. Tony Weiner drops 2 spots to 11th. Casey Lester drops from the top 10 to 12th. Blake Battagliano, same likewise. Jaden Nori drops 6 spots to 14th. However, her fate for the next couple of events are not sure, as NOVAR they are still looking at the penalties for that. And Jamie Scott should return to the number 9 in 15th spot. The next race will be at the California Speedway in Auto Club, California.